what if one quote could change the way you lead today? For me, it wasn't just one quote. It was one small discipline that a quote sparked. And it became a daily rhythm that I've kept up for almost 30 years. It reminds me of the John Wooden quote, to make each day your masterpiece. You see, leaders are often so busy managing others that we stop fueling ourselves. We stop taking the time to recharge our engines, to give ourselves the time and space we need to think. And that's a challenge, because how can we serve others from an empty cup? And I know that that's cliche, and I know that people say it all the time, but what really strikes me about that is oftentimes, and I hear this from leaders every day. I had a conversation with a group of leaders yesterday on this very topic, that we feel guilty putting ourselves first. We feel guilty giving ourselves the time and space to take care of ourselves. It isn't selfish to take care of yourself. It's what refills your cup. It's what gives you the energy. See, motivation can run dry. Perspective shrinks when you don't give yourself the time, the space, the place to think, to reflect, to pause. Without reflection, we just become a slave to reaction. We default to a reactive state. We don't allow ourselves to be intentional. And if I were to describe one word that were to guide me in my life and in my leadership focus, it would be to be intentional. And when you don't have a daily discipline, a place to sharpen yourself, and it doesn't have to take a lot of time, but if you don't have that, you can't stay sharp, you can't stay grounded, and you can't stay focused on the most important things. Now, I didn't figure any of this out intentionally. I actually stepped into it by accident. You see, it was almost 30 years ago, and I had my first leadership opportunity. I had been promoted to be the supervisor of the third shift in our call center, 11 p.m. to 8 a.m., Sunday through Thursday. Now, when I signed up for this opportunity, I thought it was perfect. 11 p.m. to 8 a.m., Sunday through Thursday. That meant from Friday morning at 8 o'clock until Sunday night at 11, I was free. I had just graduated from college. This was going to be great. This was perfect. I could get off of work. I could go to the gym. I could go home, get some sleep, and be ready for the night. In fact, I could still have my evenings free to hang out with friends and do all the fun stuff before heading to work. I actually was quite excited about the opportunity. I didn't know what I was signing up for. Well, when I came to the shift, I learned that third shift is hard. For any of you who have ever worked a third shift, you know what I'm talking about. And there are some wonderful and special souls who that is their perfect shift. And we had a few of those on our team. They loved it. They had been on third shift for years. It worked for their lives. But we had a lot of other folks who were really challenged because third shift is hard. Your body's just not wired to get up and go when everybody else is going to sleep. I was like, hey, I can learn how to do this. I can help motivate people. And I needed to be a little bit motivated myself. So I started finding famous quotes, John Maxwell, Jim Collins, Theodore Roosevelt, you name it. And I would send one at the beginning of every shift. And we'd have a conversation about it. It would turn into this quick dialogue via email, or I'd walk around to my team and say, hey, what'd you think of today's quote? It made me think about this. And what I learned was that people really liked it. People enjoyed it. It was a morale boost. Well, when I left third shift about a year later, I continued that habit. And I started now as the assistant call center manager. And so I started sending it out to all of the teams in our call center. And I think we had about 180 agents, about 210 people in total. And everybody loved it. We would get chats going about the quote. What did it make you think about? And you see, that was the key. It was making me think. Oh, and it was making others think too. So that became a daily discipline. I continued it when I left that company a few years later. I started the process again. Actually, I waited a few months and then I realized I missed this. I missed my practice of finding a quote every morning. And that's exactly what I did. I didn't send these in advance. I didn't create a master list. I would go to a book. And for probably the first 20 years of doing this, I did exactly that. I went and found a quote from the book. I started doing it again when I went to AAA, and the list grew. And it became such a joy because somebody would respond every single day. And then it extended beyond AAA. In fact, my old company folks had reached out and said, hey, we miss you. We miss the quotes. And I said, well, hey, I can send it to me now. Send me your email address. And I'm talking early 2000, hacked the heck out of this. I just had an email distribution list. Send the quote every morning. Now, along the way, I would miss one from time to time. And then invariably, I'd get an email from someone saying, hey, I missed the quote today. What are you doing? Are you okay? I didn't realize how much it meant to others to start the day with a daily quote. In 2018, I had been sending the daily quote for 20 years. And then I got a wild hair. Well, I was challenged by something I read. Imagine that. And it was about finding a way to become a better writer. Now, I enjoy writing. I love reading, but I enjoy writing. I enjoy the creative process, but I wasn't practicing it regularly. I would write emails, but that doesn't count. Those were transactional. And what I wanted to do was I wanted to become reflective, and I wanted for my writing to become more relational. So I started taking the daily quote and blogging about it every single day. Didn't miss a day for almost 3 years. And then life and then other priorities changed, and I don't follow that particular habit anymore. The reason I wanted to write on a blog wasn't because I wanted anyone to read it. In fact, I didn't know if anybody would, and I still didn't, and don't know today if anyone read them. But it was because when I made it public, I wouldn't let anyone else down. In case someone else was reading them, I had to do it. I had made a commitment that I would be a writer, not just a person who reflected, not just a person who wrote, but a writer. And in doing that, I wasn't going to let anybody down. That habit became my discipline. And now it's been almost 30 years. I still do it. I have a list that goes from my dustyholcomb.com website where we send a quote every single morning. Now, I will fully admit that I take the quotes today and I plan them. I think about them thematically, and I get a few weeks out and think about them. But I still take that same quote and reflect on it, because that's what it led to next for me. Is I would take this quote and I would journal on it. I would take a few minutes to just go, what does this bring to mind for me? And it became a discipline of thinking, and then it became a discipline of writing. And I learned that writing even a few words every single day became the mental warm-up. It became my leadership opportunity to reflect. What did this quote mean to me? How did it challenge me? How can I learn from it? I would be lying if I said that this was all incredibly intentional. It was not. It was organic. It was a process of learning. This was before journaling became in vogue. This was before, the process of daily writing was something that people talk about. And I didn't even know that I was doing it. I just knew that I was sharpening myself. I was sharpening my saw. Over the last 28 years, I don't know how many quotes I've sent out. I could do 28 times 365 minus a few days here and there, but that's not the point. The point is I've made it a practice to pause, to think, to reflect, and to take a moment to understand the wisdom of others. Now, I don't have any desire to be right. In fact, one of my common leadership catchphrases when I was working with teams was, I don't need to be right. In fact, I'd prefer not to be right. I'm only interested in doing what is right. So therefore, you have the freedom and opportunity and the obligation to challenge me, to sharpen me, to bring your ideas to bear. And I think that that's a trait that the best leaders I've ever worked for all mirrored. They didn't need to be right. They just needed to do what was right. As I reflect today on this process, it strikes me that small disciplines done daily shape the leaders we become. This reminds me of one of my favorite books from James Clear, Atomic Habits, where he says, you do not rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. And so a system of daily reflection, of thinking, pausing, writing is so incredibly important. And here's why I think quotes are so powerful as a catalyst for this type of thinking. One, it's a reflection opportunity. It forces a pause. All you have to do is take a quote. All you have to do is get a quote book. All you have to do today is go to ChatGPT and say, find a quote about. You do have to make sure the quote's accurate, and you do have to make sure that the author is cited properly, but that's a whole nother topic. It forces a moment of reflection. Take a quote, pause. What comes to mind? What is the wisdom that that quote is conveying? How does it challenge you? How do you disagree with it or agree with it? You can find so much wisdom in the perspective that a quote brings. And it also gives you the opportunity to share it. It becomes a gift that you can give to others. A quote, much as I discovered almost 30 years ago, can be an opportunity to serve. So if you find a quote today and you pause, you reflect, you take 2 minutes to think, how does this sharpen me or challenge me, make me think differently? I wonder who might benefit from this quote as well. Intentional seeding, an intentional framework, small disciplines done daily shape the leaders we become. There are no silver bullets. There are no fast tracks. There are no instant win strategies. Be intentional. Take a quote, think, reflect, pause, share. It's an opportunity to serve. So I'd challenge you to create your own 3-minute daily ritual. Find a quote. There are wonderful journals. One of my all-time favorites is the 5-Minute Journal that has a quote in it every morning. You can use something like the Full Focus Planner from Michael Hyatt that has a quote in it at the beginning of every day. Find a quote and write one sentence. Reflect on what it means. You can incorporate this into your leadership team meetings. You can start each meeting with a quote. Today's quote is, the topic of our meeting is, and I found this quote to start it out. I include a quote in every update with the Vision to Victory Accelerator. I have a quote incorporated with the core values on our website because quotes embody wisdom. And now, let me be really honest here. It's not about the quote at all. It's about the discipline. It's about the intentional pause, the reflection, and the writing. It's not just the pause and think. It's the pause, think, write. That's how we learn. That's how we get better. That's how you build a leadership rhythm that lasts. And this reinforces and supports one of the truisms of leadership, one of the things that we practice, teach, and ensure that anyone who goes through our leadership accelerators deeply understands. All leadership begins with self-leadership. If you don't lead yourself first, you can't lead others effectively. The greatest leaders lead themselves first. One quote, one reflection, one bit of writing every day. That's how you build a leadership rhythm that lasts. Let me ask you something. Are you leading off of instinct? I mean, you've got the vision, you've built the thing, but most leaders I talk to are still flying without a system. Vision to Victory, the mastermind, changes that. It's a 12-week experience where we install the leadership operating system you've always needed. Purpose, strategy, cadence, metrics, execution. This isn't a course. It's not more content. It's a small group of leaders who are done chasing clarity and ready to lead with it. You'll walk out with a full leadership operating system, a trusted circle of peers, and a repeatable way to scale without losing yourself along the way. There are only 12 seats in this group, and most are already spoken for. It's an application-only process. Go to arcusgroup.com/mastermind to apply. I'm curious, what's one quote that has framed or shaped your thinking in your life? For me, there are so many. I have a long list of favorite quotes. And of late, one of my favorites has been a quote from John Maxwell, which is, "Leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less." This is so powerful to me because it reinforces that influence is leadership. And it isn't about the title, and it's not about the role, and it's not about how many people or how much money. It is about the opportunity to have influence and impact on others. And I don't care if you're a solopreneur or you are someone leading an organization with hundreds of thousands of people. Leadership is influence. And influence is a responsibility. It's a calling, and it is something that must be held sacred. Because when we have the opportunity to create influence over the life of another person, we have a responsibility to do it well, to ensure that we are creating good for them. So my ask is, what's one quote that has shaped you as a leader? Tag me on LinkedIn, send me an email. I'd love to know. I'd love to add that quote to my library in case it's not there so others can benefit from it. I'd love to learn what inspires and motivates you. As we wrap up today, I wanted to share a few of my favorite quotes from across the years. These are quotes that mean something to me today. They have meant something perhaps different in years past, and they inspire and motivate me. In fact, I'm going to take some time later today and reflect on these actively to understand how they have changed and evolved. One of the quotes that has motivated and inspired me for years and given me many opportunities to pause and reflect is a quote from Martin Luther King Jr., which is, "Faith is taking the first step even when you don't see the whole staircase." There's so much power in this. It's not about the end journey. It's not about knowing how far or how big or what the goal is. It's taking the right next step on faith, knowing you are doing the right thing. You are following the right North Star. I love that quote. This one has really given me something to think about, and I've had it on my mind for the last few months. Leadership is the capacity to influence others through inspiration, motivated by passion, generated by vision, produced by conviction, ignited by a purpose. Miles Monroe. I like this quote so much, and it's given me so much to think about. As we were designing the Vision to Victory Leadership Accelerator, we start with self-leadership, we move into purpose, and then vision, our mission, and our values. And this quote really embodies that leadership is the capacity to influence others through inspiration, motivated by passion, generated by vision, produced by conviction, and ignited by a purpose. I'm a huge fan of C.S. Lewis, and there are so many rich quotes from his writings and his works. But this is the one that I think of in the essence of humility, because, gosh, the minute you say that you're humble, of course you're not. But C.S. Lewis did the best job of decoding this of any quote, anything I've ever read about humility. Humility is not thinking less of yourself, but of thinking of yourself less. The first time I read this, I had to pause and go, whoa, hold on now. When I am actively aspiring to understand humility, it doesn't mean that I lack confidence. It doesn't mean I think less of myself. I'm not worthy. It just means that I'm not first. It means I'm putting others first. Great quotes capture the essence. They convey the meaning, and they challenge us to do better and do more. This quote causes me to chuckle a little, smile a little, and frankly be inspired. Albert Einstein wrote that he had no special talent, that he was only passionately curious. And when I see that, when I hear that, when I read that, I go, here's probably one of the smartest humans that ever lived. And he was chalking up his success to passion and curiosity. It's what gives us the stamina, the resolve, the ability to dig deeper. I have no special talent. I am only passionately curious. And as we wrap up today, I'll share this one. You must take personal responsibility. You cannot change the circumstances, the season, or the wind, but you can change yourself. Jim Rohn. There are so many Jim Rohn quotes that I could lean into, that I could focus on. But this one links so much to Viktor Frankl's work in Man's Search for Meaning, that we have agency, that we have the right, that we have the opportunity to choose. You must take personal responsibility. You cannot change the circumstances, the season, or the wind, but you can change yourself. Make each day your masterpiece. John Wooden. Every morning, you have the opportunity to intentionally curate your day. You don't know if it's going to be perfect. You don't know if it's going to go right. You don't know what's going to happen. But you have the opportunity to choose the right motivation to reflect and to write. And I challenge you to do that. Leadership is intentionality. Leadership is influence. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Leadership Unlocked. And if something challenged you, inspired you, or motivated you today, please hit subscribe on your favorite podcast player and share this episode with someone who might just need to hear it. Until next time, keep leading with clarity and courage. This is Leadership Unlocked. Thanks for tuning into this solo episode of Leadership Unlocked. If something hit home today, if it challenged you, clarified something, or gave you a tool that you can use, don't just keep it for yourself. Apply it. Share it. Talk about it with your team. And if you're leading through something tough right now, just know this. You don't have to figure it out alone. That's what this podcast, this work, and this community are all about. Want more tools like this? Head over to arcusgroup.com/podcast or visit arcusgroup.com and join the newsletter. No fluff, just what helps you lead better. Until next time, keep leading with clarity and courage. This is Leadership Unlocked.